Gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The First Take. Thanks for tuning in. As promised in my last episode of course, Dior Cologne, the newest addition to the Dior family. I told you guys I had another 2013 release on deck for The First Take, another designer release. This time we're going to take a look at the house of Jean-Paul Gaultier. We're adding another tin can to the clan of Le Males. This guy, Le Beau Male. Now this guy right here, here's the bottle. I'm going to do a few spritz here on my hand and then let you guys know a little bit of a backstory on this fragrance, let you guys know how I came about finding out about this fragrance and all that jazz. Now, when purchasing a flanker of Le Male, I usually pass on Gaultier flankers, guys. When I first fell in love with Le Male, and it's, of course, if you know me, it's one of my favorite designer fragrances of all time. I was excited about that fragrance and I wanted to purchase everything, you know, all the flankers that Gaultier was releasing, summer editions, Le Male rebottled, anything. And I finally learned my lesson. I was like, geez, all of these kind of smell like watered down Le Male. They're subpar. Some of them smell exactly like Le Male. They were just repackaged, but I never did my research. So, you know what, when I first got onto YouTube, guys, I started going, okay, no more purchasing Le Male flankers unless I do my research. I'll just purchase them if they are different from the originator, or they're not, of course, watered down versions. So after learning my lesson, this one I purchased Le Male Terrible just recently, and it's kind of like Gaultier's learning their lesson too. They're like, these aren't selling too well. So they released Le Male Terrible, now Le Beau Male, both actually different from the original Le Male. So interesting. So this one was different enough to warrant a blind buy. That's what I heard in the notes. This is, of course, a blind buy for me. I actually didn't sniff it. I purchased it online. Now, this was blended by the same nose of the originator, Francis K. Now, Francis K. and Gaultier did, of course, absolutely great juices that I could think of. Of course, the original Le Male, they did some great work there, and they did some subpar stuff. It's like Francis K. kind of owes Jean-Paul Gaultier a few favors, and giving them, you know, just rework Le Male and send it to me. Doing some safe scents for Gaultier, and I really like when they were a little more daring, to be honest with you guys. So I'm hoping that Francis K. kind of homed in on his, you know, his recent stuff that he's been releasing, especially in his niche brand, but I don't really want to expect that from, of course, a Gaultier fragrance. But anyway, it's going to be an interesting addition to my Le Male army. So I had to get it, guys. So let's get to it. First impression. Now this guy, this video was supposed to be shot like 2 days ago or yesterday. I actually used a lot of this juice. It's down to his shoulders now, the juice actually. I probably did 15 sprays of this stuff. 3 or 4 wearings. I wore it this morning. I just showered and I'm wearing it now for this video to kind of remind me of it. Of course, sniffing it now. And it was interesting when I first started wearing this fragrance and writing down my notes. Right off the bat, I'm like, this is different. That's good. Now, right off the bat, the first thing that you're going to smell from Le Beau Male is the mint. It's going nuts, guys. There's lots of mint in here, amped up like no tomorrow. Now, don't expect a roadster here. It's not as good as Cartier's Roadster or Mount Fresh from Healy. The mint is more of an herbal mint, to be honest. It wasn't like a chewing gum type of mint, you know, like candied mint sometimes, very green. Very nice. There's a good dose of it. What I pinpointed in this intro was your main players, mint and lavender, basically just like Le Male, the original, but really much more amped up. Yeah, gives this fragrance really a cooling factor. Invigorating hit, really nicely done. I could feel like this is going to be more of a spring-summer release than anything else, a little less oriental. Really cooling. Now there's a bit of absinthe in here. Now that's a different note, of course, from Le Male. The absinthe, again, changes things up a little bit here. Again, kind of with that invigorating hit. I know that mint does that, kind of like hits your nose, really pungent. Cooling factor. Absinthe kind of does that too, kind of pungent in your nose, and that really makes this introduction really fresh and invigorating. That's the best way to really explain this introduction, and it was a nice note to add to Le Male. Now the intro, once it dries down a little bit more, you know, you got it on your skin for 20 to 30 minutes, You can really sniff that it's reminding you of other fresh green scents. It was really a green scent, this fragrance right here, and it reminded me of the classic, of course, Cool Water from Davidoff. Now, of course, that's the originator of fresh green scents. You know, Swiss Army Classic kind of has that feel. Mont Blanc Legend. There's several fragrances in the designer game that does this type of fragrance, a fresh green scent. And the more I wear this, the more I feel like this is run-of-the-mill. It just goes into that direction that there's a lot of designer fragrances that are doing this. It's not really unique. The greenness in the scent really reminded me of a lot of designer fragrances. And it also helps that this and Cool Water, I attached it to Cool Water just because Cool Water does have mint, it has lavender and musk, and those three notes are basically the same in this fragrance. They're all in this fragrance also, and they really do work each other just like Cool Water does. Yeah. Now the orange blossom comes in from the original Le Male in this dry down, comes out in the mid. The rest joins the rest of the party, you know, the mint, the lavender, the sage. It's not as sweet as Le Male, of course, not as oriental. It's missing, of course, that huge vanilla note in this fragrance, but it still has a small tinge of sweetness when you smell it. It ended with a punch of white musk, and that was basically the end of this fragrance. There's a lot of stuff stripped down from the original. The question on everyone's lips, is it different enough from the original Le Male? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's different, guys. It's worth a purchase if you don't want a Le Male clone, a watered down Le Male. No, this is not what this is. This is a different fragrance from Le Male. Almost too different. But then again, it's almost the same of other fragrances that I've smelled before. Several of them. It's not that crazy. So, I was really disappointed in this one, Le Beau Male, from first sniff. It just reminded me of several fragrances. So it kind of, you know, it's different from Le Male, yay. But boo, it's same as other fragrances. So, The longevity was good, as expected from a lot of Gaultier fragrances. It was above average for a fresh-like scent. I really feel like this one was several hours on my skin and it kept going and going. Give or take on the 3 or 4 wearings that I had it on my skin, it was like 5 to 7 hours, which is excellent for a fresh scent like this. Good projection, solid projection, no complaints here. Basically, Francis K took the mint, put into overdrive, backed up by familiar notes like lavender and orange blossom from the original, but he kind of stripped down, removed the vanilla, added some absinthe, and of course some musk. It's a much greener scent than the original Le Male, and as usual, kind of stripped down, and they removed probably the originality of Le Male. This is not an original scent to me. The good at the moment that I'm finding out on this fragrance when I'm wearing it, the mint was nice. The introduction was actually solid. I really like this introduction, and it's going to sell a few units just because that introduction is really familiar and solid. Good longevity, which is really good for this type of scent. Different from the original Le Male, that it does warrant a purchase to Le Male lovers. The bad. After the mint left, the absinthe kind of came down. It was really less interesting. It was more like a watered down Le Male. Dry down was not awful, but it was kind of meh. Even though it wasn't a watered down Le Male per se, it smelled familiar to other fragrances, and it's not really that unique in the designer game. So, now down to buy, try, or pass on Le Beau Male, guys. A lot of pluses with Le Beau Male. You know, it's different from Le Male. That's a huge plus already. It's not watered down Le Male. Great stuff. Good longevity, excellent projection with this one. It lasts several hours. A lot of positives. The negatives would be, there's a lot of negatives also. It smells like a lot of fresh green scents out there, namely Cool Water-esque, anything that you could put your name towards a lavender green based fragrance, you're going to pinpoint this to it. Really nothing new to the game, nothing to add, and this is just basically, right now, is going to be a pass for me on buy, try, or pass. But again, I haven't worn it in the summer, and I'm going to be testing it out, and we'll see with a full-fledged review on this guy. So guys, another edition of the first take completed with Le Beau Male. I'm gonna go not in a 2013 release now. I'm gonna actually go into an older fragrance, a designer still, and it's a discontinued fragrance, but I hear this one's a gem, so I had to blind buy it. This one called Nemo. Yes, not the fish. Nemo the fragrance from Cacharel. So I'm going to be testing this one out, give you guys my first take. So stay tuned in, and I'm going to give you guys a first take on Nemo. Thanks for watching, YouTube.